Well, thanks
Wubba
for
dub
being...
dub dub.
Thanks for being... Wubba dub dub?
Wubba dub
Alrighty.
dub dub.
I'm a little
What?
disturbed.
It's going to be that kind of show tonight.
It
Yes, it
really,
is.
really is. Ladies, gentlemen, and those of non-binary gender, welcome once again to the Bulldrek Round Table, where I invite a couple of my buddies in the gaming industry to come hang out for a while, talk about games, life, and whatever else might come to mind. As always, my name is Bull, and with me this month at the table are Opti, also known as O.C. Presley when he writes books, and R.J. Thomas. Welcome, folks.
Thanks for having us.
The way this works is that we take turns posing questions to the group and everyone answers and discusses. The questions could be anything from questions about our work to gaming stuff, nerd stuff, or just silly and fun questions in an informal setting to help get to know each other and let the audience get to know us better and hopefully have a little fun along the way. Of course, we haven't seen each other's questions yet, so that makes it all the more fun as all the answers are spur of the moment and off the cuff. So I'll go ahead and kick things off with a couple standard questions that I ask all the guests to the roundtable every month. So first question, where might we know you from? Tell us a couple things you've worked on. Opti, go ahead and kick us off.
Probably you know me from the Neo-Anarchist podcast, which has been going on for a couple of years now, in which I do an in-character history lesson on the Shadowrun universe. But I also recently have been playing the GM for the Hidden Grid, and also make the rounds every once in a while on various other podcasts, and got a couple other things in the works. But also I got to do one of my little childhood dream things and start writing for Shadowrun as well this last year. So if you've read Drawing Destiny, or if you've read the Seattle box set, or if you've read Book of the Lost, or something in between there, then you might have seen some small sliver of my work in there.
Excellent. And what's the address for the Neo-Anarchist podcast?
Anarchist.com, or you could find that on most of your podcatchers as well.
Alrighty, excellent. And Rob?
Haha. Me. Well, I started off in this little jaunter of Shadowrun probably about 5 years ago when I actually stalked Jason Hardy at a gaming convention. I don't recommend anybody else try that because, there's a whole lot of legal issues involved with that. But I somehow made it work, and he didn't press charges. So eventually he made me a freelancer. Like Opti, I've been doing a lot of work for Catalyst. Just some of the things I've worked on recently, working backwards. I recently did an adventure called False Flag, which is the number 2 in the Denver series. I also helped work on, some of the same ones that Opti did. I did a lot of work on Book of the Lost. I did a lot of work on Cutting Aces. And I also got a nice, nifty little story in the Drawing Destiny anthology, that was part of the Six World Tarot. So I was actually very, very happy about that. But other than that, just crack open a Shadowrun book, from about 5th ed on, and you've got a fairly good chance of seeing my name in it.
Rob is
and when I'm not doing that,
for sure.
Yeah, I really am. I'm not trying to stroke my own ego, but I've got almost 35 project credits to my name since working for Catalyst. So I've been busy. And when I'm not torturing, my readers by, forcing them to write the words that I put into print, I'm also a CDT agent. So if you have ever gone to Origins or Gen Con, you'll probably see me there. And if you don't mind, next month I will be running Catalyst demo games at Marcon. So, hey, can't wait for that.
Excellent. All right, and now for the other one that was last time around had a surprising answer for me because I found out that one of our guests had basically never eaten food before. But what is one of your...
There's a lot of things that Whack has never done that just leave me flabbergasted every time I think about it.
Agreed. So, What is one of your favorite foods and why? Rob, let's start with you this time.
I have... A lot of people say I'm just a big old carnivore, and I can't lie. So if given the option, give me some good old-fashioned barbecue, whether it be ribs, pulled pork, whatever. If it was once, mooing, oinking, or clucking, and it made its way to a grill and slather it with barbecue sauce, and I'm just in heaven. I remember going to Texas back in 2008 and got a chance to have real authentic Texas barbecue, and it was pure heaven.
Nice. All right, Opti?
I call that Tuesday.
Yeah, well, for you that's Tuesday.
Well,
so
because you are in Texas, as I recall. So
yeah, I'm up near Lake Erie in Ohio, so kind of a little not exactly known for their barbecue tradition up here.
For me, I have to say, anytime I can get a big bowl of Thai curry, that is one of my favorite things in life.
Oof.
My place right down the street from where I work, and I hit that place up all the time. I go down their menu and just try different curries and different items, and just Thai food is just it just does it for me in a super big way.
Do you ever go in there and just say, "Hey," and they say, "Oh, Mr. Presley, what can we get for you today?" Do you ever say, "Surprise me"?
I do. I just sometimes like, what do you want to give me today? But yeah, when you go in there all the time, it's like, I don't have a usual, but I do, but that's not true. Like, the green curry is probably my favorite. Up to the pad Thai or the red curry. I mean, God, I could go on all day about how good Thai food is.
I've heard good things about Thai food. However, I cannot eat it. Sadly, it would wreck me. It would be like eating. I mean, I might as well just swallow battery acid.
Ouch.
Yeah. So I actually can't eat anything spicy or anything like that, or it just destroys me. My system's so sensitive anymore. It's kind of sad.
Origin. I got back from last Origins, and I had done something pretty bad to myself in the last Origins apparently, and probably involved the Shadowrun Scotch Squad.
That's usually the root of all problems.
So I was running probably more games than I should have last year, and when you sit in that one position for a while, and I was eating really, really rich food and really kind of bad food, and then spending each evening down in the Scotch, and really good Scotch. So I was just kept going and going, and then when I got home, my stomach was like, it was just attacking me for like weeks, and I had to go see a doctor. Like, oh yeah, I have gastritis. I was like, what? What is that? How do I fix it? And they're like, yeah, you pretty much can't eat anything that tastes good for a while until it goes away. And so, basically, I all last year. I mean, like, it's still to the point now where I have to watch it. So I'm trying a chronic deal, but like, beware, everyone, when you go to Origins. that's a definite possibility to mess yourself up.
Yeah.
That's funny because when not this April Fool's, but the year before that, I released in conjunction with Ray Regal the April 1 product, Unconventional Warfare. And it was because of that very type of situation, food at conventions, where I came up with the optional rule that was put in there about eating too much convention food. Because I just remember going to like Gen Con and some of these places, and you're right. It's not necessarily the food is bad. It's just that a while.
Well, when you're at a convention, you're eating very sporadically, especially those of us working the show.
Yeah.
Because it's a matter of, I've got 10 minutes between now and my next game. I'm going to stuff as much crap into my mouth as I can.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to get to eat again for 8 hours.
Yeah, it doesn't process in the same way. You know what I mean, like your normal schedule. It can really screw you up.
So you're not sleeping. You're more than likely not sleeping nearly enough.
What's that?
Yeah,
Sleep?
I know. I run on 3 to 4 hours of sleep at best most nights. You're not sleeping enough. You're running your ass off. You're talking constantly, so you're dehydrating yourself. I dehydrate. I'm downing gallons of water and Gatorade at the convention, and I'm still dehydrated all weekend. And then at night we go out and we drink an assload of terrible, terrible stuff. I mean, it's awesome stuff. Don't get me wrong. It's great scotch, great alcohol. except for me because I drink Everclear. But
Which is basically akin to battery acid.
pretty much. So we're just doing terrible things to our bodies for 4, 5, 6 days straight. So it's no wonder that we're a mess afterwards.
Yeah.
But what a ride.
Yeah, folks at home, don't do this if you can help it. Come to the shows,
honestly.
have a good time, but learn from our mistakes.
Yeah, so this year at Origins, man, like I'm gonna be a different dude. Yeah, I can't afford to like not be able to eat good food all year next year.
So what you're saying is you're going to be no fun.
Right, absolutely. I'm gonna be the boringest GM of all time.
Actually, one thing to suggest for you, did you get out to the, was it North Side Market or East Side Market?
North side.
Yeah.
North Side. I was gonna say if you can carve time out, go up to there a few times because I know they have some pretty decent stuff and it's relatively healthy compared to.
Well, one of the
What's that?
as many games. So I'm gonna run a lot fewer games this time and just wake up later and run my games and try to have a little bit more of a normal schedule.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea too. That'll help.
Not me.
Without having any pressure to like be done quickly, then I think that'll probably solve most of my problems.
Alrighty, so let's go ahead and kick off. Let's start our questions. Opti, why don't you go ahead and ask our first question?
All right. I was gonna ask Star Wars questions, but you guys did that last time, so I will say.
You can ask Star Wars questions. We don't have any restrictions on questions.
Well, if we get done with these, then we'll come back and I'll ask Star Wars.
All right.
What is your favorite 80s cartoon that no one remembers?
Well, I'd answer that, but I can't remember what it's called anymore. Rob, you go ahead and answer first.
Okay. There was I don't know if anyone remembered, but there was a little toy line called Starcom. They had this gimmick, this little wind-up gimmick where, you know, the spacecraft would expand, you know, wings would pop out, and they'd have little tiny figurines with the little magnets on their feet so you could stick them on the sides of the ships and everything like that. They had a companion cartoon to that. It only lasted 13 episodes, but I remember watching that. You know, after I got the toys, and I would literally run home from school because I wanted to catch that, and I would always run in, be out of breath, and literally collapse in front of the TV because it was on one of those, you know, local stations. You know, not the ABC, NBC, CBS affiliates, but you know, the one that always showed, you know, the secondhand stuff. And I just remember watching that, and it fed my love of spaceships because I'm a big sci-fi nerd. You know, give me a space battle, no matter what genre, universe, whatever, and I'm real happy. But that would be mine. And it was sponsored by NASA, so that made it doubly cool.
Nice.
Excellent. Nice.
Oh, man. I was a big fan of a lot of cartoons as a kid. But most of the ones I really remember well, a lot of folks were really into. And I'm trying to remember when some of these were airing. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of them that I remember that are fairly obscure, but I think they all aired in the early 90s.
Yeah, after a while, things start to kind of blurring together. I'll tell you one thing, though. One of the goofier things that I tend to do when I'm bored and everything, or I need background noise, is I'll put on theme songs to old TV shows on. That's my background music.
Nice.
And I've come across quite a few cartoon themes from back in the day, you know, like Thundercats, Silverhawks, you know, Brave Star, you know, some of those, a lot of the old Filmation stuff, which was really, really cool back in the day.
Yeah.
I just put those on and just, you know, let those go.
Okay, well, saying Filmation reminded me of the one that I remember. I really, really dug it. And it's one of those ones that I'm not sure how obscure it is anymore. Because it's one of those pops up occasionally, but it was the original Ghostbusters cartoon.
Oh, the one with the monkey.
The one with the monkey,
Oh,
not
the monkey one. Okay,
yeah,
not the
it was the reason why
Yes.
the Ghostbusters cartoon based on the movie was called The Real Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
It was because there was a cartoon called Ghostbusters that was actually based on a terrible live-action show from, I think, the early 70s.
1975, and remember, because I was talking about old TV themes. Yeah, every so often that one would pop up in the queue.
Nice.
And oh my! Let's put it this way: the Ghostbusters from 1975, okay, makes Batman 66 looks like Shakespearean theater. Okay, that's all I gotta say.
It was cheesy as hell, but I don't know why I loved it as a kid.
So that's kind of weird because my favorite one that nobody remembers is actually Brave Star.
Oh yeah,
and Brave Star actually got going because they were creating a character for that Ghostbusters series, and they liked that adversary Tex Hex. They liked him so much that they pulled him and made Brave Star like around that guy.
Oh, nice.
So that's kind of fun.
No, yeah. Brave Star was fantastic.
Yeah, I posted this on the Shadowrunners Facebook not too long ago, but Brave Star is so Shadowrun.
Oh yeah, that's like a shamanic adept right there. It's like, dude,
right? Like the hero, it's like set in space, and you've got this Native American
shaman
lawman, shaman lawman that can like call upon the eyes of the hawk and the ears of the wolf and the strength of the bear, and he rides
Speed of the puma,
right? Speed of the puma, right? He rides on this horse 30-30 that can like transform into his buddy. And like it's just the whole thing is just incredible.
It's
like,
and
they're out there.
Don't forget Deputy Fuzz Marshal.
Right, yeah. So all of it was just so good. It just totally did it for me on lots of different levels.
Yeah, and I'll bet you the listeners now are probably thinking, "Oh my God, that R.J. Thomas guy, he's insane." And you're not too far off. But
well, we've all written for Shadowrun. That pretty much makes us insane in one way or another.
Yeah, definitely.
Before or
definitely
after.
Yeah.
Well, I think you have to have been insane to start with to want to get involved in the gaming industry to begin with. And it just gets worse after that. Yeah,
roll for saving throw.
I'm doing a quick dig in here. I'm doing a quick dig, and like it looks like a lot of the ones I was thinking of initially are all like 92, 93, which is right around when I graduated high school. And I still kind of consider 92 like when I graduated. My cutoff point is high school and after high school. And everything from high school and earlier I consider 80s, so I get a little weird with the dates sometimes. But
for a cartoon where the guy was like an astronaut, and he like fell through a black hole.
Black Star.
Black Star?
Sounds about
made
right.
By Filmation, because they ripped on Tolkien so hard, and then Black Star meets the little Trobbit people. I'm like, really? Looks like someone, Rankin and Bass just called. They got a cease and desist on you.
That's funny that I didn't remember it was Black Star.
Yeah.
I know.
Since I write about Black Star.
Nice. I was a big fan of Mighty Max. If you remember that one at all.
Yeah. Was that the kid in the diapers?
No.
That's Fantastic Max.
Yeah, no.
Oh God, I know this stuff.
So, Mighty Max.
That's that person.
Yeah, Mighty Max had this hat that could like open up portals or something like that, and he just had this big giant, like barbarian bodyguard.
And this little like owl chicken dude who was like some sort of sage or something. Yeah.
And then it was
fact.
And then Exo Squad is another one.
Oh, Exo Squad was awesome. I forgot about that one. I didn't really get a chance to see that one too much.
That was one of those ones.
Exo Squad was amazing.
Yeah.
Exo Squad was one I always had. I loved the show, but I had a hard time watching it because the affiliate in our area that showed it didn't show it in order.
Hmm.
And it was very serialized.
Didn't Exo Squad have like some BattleTech stuff in it?
It's later the later toy lines actually used some. It wasn't BattleTech; it was Robotech. They used molds based on some of the old Robotech models, which were also used in BattleTech. It was some of the unseen stuff, basically.
Yeah,
Okay.
we don't talk about those.
I
Please
have
don't.
no idea how legal that was. I don't know if they actually managed to cut a deal with.
Do any of us ever come up with anything original?
Yes. And I just want to say right off the bat, Harmony Gold, if you're listening, if you happen to be listening, please don't sue Bull. He's a nice person.
If Harmony Gold happens to be listening, fuck you, assholes.
Oh!
Shots fired.
And, right?
You know what? I've always thought the whole thing with Harmony Gold was pretty shady to begin with. But you know what really got me? As much as I love the BattleTech side of our companies, as much as I love the BattleTech guys, it was never the BattleTech stuff that got me. Although I always thought that was pretty crappy of them. But what got me was that a few years back at San Diego Comic-Con, they released a G.I. Joe Transformers crossover toy package that was one of the Sky Striker jets.
Was it done up like Skyfire?
It was done up like Jetfire.
Oh, nice.
And it had the Jetfire, it had the red rocket pads, and it was done to resemble the original toy as much as possible. And the original toy was based on a Valkyrie model from Japan.
Valkyrie, yeah.
Yeah, it was basically just a repainted Valkyrie that they had released in Japan. And Harmony Gold tried suing. They started making noises about suing Hasbro and demanded that Hasbro recall all of the toys, including the ones that had been sold at the show. And I have one of those sitting in a box on my shelf out there.
You know what? I'll bet you Hasbro.
Oh, Hasbro bitch slapped them.
The middle finger, yeah.
Hasbro just smacked them with the back of their head and said, "Shut the fuck up." But that was one that got me. That was one that got me because it was like, dude, really?
You're messing with Hasbro here, okay? Seriously.
Oh, more importantly, you're talking about taking away my toy.
Yeah.
You don't take my toys from me. I love me my G.I. Joes. And that is a really, really sweet looking jet.
You know, I like G.I. Joe toys more than I like the G.I. Joe cartoons, to be honest with you.
The cartoons were nothing but a giant advertisement anyway, so...
I liked the cartoons when I was a kid, but I ended up cutting my teeth and growing up on the comics.
Oh, yeah.
And the comics were a whole different ball of wax than the cartoons.
Oh, yeah.
So, a lot more... they tended to be a lot more serious and a lot more military-minded than the cartoons were.
Yeah,
so
and people actually died.
That always informed my G.I. Joe. Although, like I said, I enjoyed the cartoon as well. I was a big fan of just about everything G.I. Joe.
Yeah, I mean...
However, that is not an obscure cartoon.
Yeah.
No.
So, all right. We went way off on that one. Opti, you mentioned yours, right?
Yeah, Brave Star.
Right, that was it. All right. Rob, you got a question for us?
Actually, yes, I do. This one is kind of our whole kind of gamer roots. We, obviously everyone here, we're involved in Shadowrun. We love Shadowrun. Shadowrun is great. Shadowrun is awesome. All hail the mighty Sixth World. But I was wondering if you could live in any other game universe other than Shadowrun, what would it be and why?
All right, I have a question before we answer this.
Yes.
Are we able to become a character in that universe? Or are we just a random... Are we basically just us as a just random NPC, mundane person in that universe?
Or do we get to do character creation again?
Yeah. It's kind of weird. My mom didn't like my original stats, so, she just rolled up a new son. No. You are the heroes, obviously, or you are somebody.
Oh.
No,
well.
Come on, this is fantasy we're talking about here. Of course
I'm just checking, because there's a difference between what game I would like to exist in as a character, as an actual character hero, and what world I would like to just live in and exist in.
Okay, so yeah, if you were like a mover and shaker, if you were, quote, somebody, which game universe would you like to live in?
Opti,
why don't you take this one first?
All right. Man. Game universe. Is that like universe that originated with game first, or like anything that's ever been a game?
Doesn't matter. If it's an RPG,
It's fair game.
that's it. It's fair game. Pun intended. That just made it 10 times harder.
Because my go-to is probably always going to be Star Wars. If I could be a mover and shaker in the Star Wars universe, like, I would do that. Said that, if I were just going to live my life, I think the Star Trek universe would be more my speed.
Yeah, except like, alien civilizations just come in and start shooting the planet up, or some random doomsday device, whatever.
Yeah, but if you're
like a 20-year period, right? Like before and after that, like everything's kind of smooth.
it also depends on whether you live on Earth or not too. Earth tended not to get messed with too often. It was always those outlier colonies that were getting screwed with.
Yeah.
Like I don't think so. I don't think I'd rather be either one in Shadowrun. Like when we come to the grimdark settings or the dystopian, like, nope, I'll stay away from those.
It's tough for me. I almost would like to do a Shadowrun. I mean, I know that wasn't part of the question. That wasn't one of our options. Just for the decking, I would love to actually be able to deck, because I am I'm so terrible with computers in real life. Excuse me. That being able to plug my brain into a computer and just operate it like that would be amazing.
There's got to be other RPGs where you could do that, right?
Probably. But honestly, yeah, I think that to actually be in and be the hero of, I got to agree, Star Wars would be mine. Just because I think it would be exciting, it's an awesome universe, and it would be fantastic. That dichotomy of good versus evil is such a nice, it would just be great.
Adventure finds you, and like you always kind of long term will end up kind of triumphing.
And as a universe just to exist in, that's a little tougher. I don't know if I'd go Star Trek though. Honestly, maybe Marvel superheroes, because I think it'd just be kind of cool to live in a universe where superpowers exist. Although I would want superpowers as well.
Right.
But,
that's my biggest problem. If I was an NPC,
I'd be so jealous of the PCs.
So pissed. Right. Like, I would just look around and go like, God, why can't I be like that?
But think about that.
If my destiny got switched with somebody.
But, if you were an NPC, you could potentially become a PC in one of these worlds.
You start dousing yourself with toxic waste.
Exactly, you're dousing your with
radioactive spiders and stuff like that.
Right, or if you're or just join Starfleet if you're in the Starfleet universe,
Waste a good origin story.
All right, Rob, how about you then? You asked it, now you get to answer it.
Oh man, you know what? You guys kind of, I don't want to say stole my thunder, but yeah, I have to agree with you with the whole Star Wars thing, because Star Wars was the first movie I ever watched when I was a young kid. I was like 2 or 3 when my parents took me to see it, I think. I just remember having some really messed up memories of it, and it wasn't until like years later when it was actually out on beta, dating myself there, that I actually kind of realized, oh, this is what this is about. This is great! And even today, just no matter what sci-fi universe, genre, series, whatever, you got to give me the space battles, which is why when Rogue One came out and I saw those X-Wings, those Y-Wings going up against TIEs and all that stuff, I don't think I breathed the entire, last third of the movie, because I was smiling so much. I was like, I was like, 6-year-old me again, But that's the quick answer. But, I will say this, and might sound kind of weird. I've always had kind of a weird affinity for Mage the Ascension, kind of that the original World of Darkness one, because I used to have a bunch of friends. We'd get together, and we do these mixed World of Darkness groups where we'd have vampires, werewolves, and the mages. We did because we had a good storyteller, but he let us get away with so much stuff. It got to the point, it just got insane. And one of my most was, for those of you who know the World of Darkness, you'll know what I'm talking about. Those of you who don't, just listen to what I'm saying. It's funny anyway. I was playing a Verbena mage, and the Get a Fenris warrior, Arun werewolf in our group, was trying to obviously play alpha male and pushing everyone around. So I got tired of it and created a special fetish, which I called Bad Dog. And what Bad Dog was a rolled up newspaper. And so every time I swatted him on the nose with that, he turned into his wolf form and ran with his tail tucked between his legs.
Nice.
And that was just the kind of crazy insanity that... But it was actually encouraged. So...
Alrighty. I will ask the next question then. I think we've got everything there. So,
yeah, check.
Okay. I'm going to go with a gaming question because, we're all gamers and we're all GMs. So tell me your worst experience as a GM. Tell me the worst game you ever ran. Whether it was because of the players or because of you or because of outside circumstances. Rob, let's start with you this time.
Wow. Okay, so many to choose from. Where do I start? I could easily go back to Gen Con and Origins and come up with something. No, I kid. I've never really had I love Gen Con and Origins. All the people I've met there have been absolutely fantastic. So I can't really dig on people. Not even a joke. The absolute worst game that I had. Okay. Kind of funny. We can't seem to get away from this universe, but it was a Star Wars Weston Games D6 game. Okay? I had wanted to try something different. I had just gotten the new module, so it had all these wonderful force powers and all this cool stuff. So I wanted to play with it. I decided to run a Jedi campaign. That was my first mistake. Because I had a group of munchkins, and everybody else was pretty cool, but I had this one guy who, I won't say his name, just to be nice, this once, but he decided he wanted to play a Wookiee Jedi bounty hunter who's force sensitive. Okay, sure. Who spoke basic. He pulled something out of the novels and tried to use that as justification for some of his cheesiness. Well, Tim Zahn said in this book that, because of a speech impediment, this particular Wookiee can speak basic. And I tried arguing with him, and I said, no, that's not how it works. It's like that one commercial. That's not how this works. It's not how any of this works. But he just kept getting so belligerent. He just kept arguing with me on every little thing that happened, and heaven forbid I actually did something against him, because I am the GM, and I damaged his precious ship, which, because he was a Wookiee Jedi bounty hunter, he just happened to have the same ship type as Boba Fett. I'm thinking, wow, can you get an original thought in your head there, dude? But long story short, I ended up stopping that game because we got into such an argument about it, and he literally just grabbed his dice and said, all right, we're done. And because we were playing at his house, he just decided the game was over. So I'm like, all right, that's cool, dude. And I just packed up my stuff and, it's kind of funny when the rest of the group followed me. So, yay, solidarity. But I would have to say that was probably the worst one, only because that was just such... I don't like combative people. If you've got a beef with a GM, at the table, while the game is going, is not the time to bring it up. Wait till it's over or during a break, bring it up, and try to work something out. Don't make it unfun for the rest of everybody else. That's my biggest thing.
Yeah. Definitely. All right, I'll go ahead and tell mine next, as mine's also a Star Wars story.
Woohoo!
We're all about the Star Wars tonight, apparently. So, I had this game that I was running up at local community college had a gaming club, and we would meet there once a week and it was in the cafeteria area, so there was this big open area for gaming. And it was pretty cool. You know, there'd be 30, 40 of us up there every week. And I had a group that I would, run stuff for occasionally. And we decided to try out a Star Wars game. And it was just one of those games where everything seemed to go wrong. The players were supposed to, sneak into this Imperial base and they were supposed to sneak in. It was a heavily fortified base, and they were trying to steal some data or something like that. Scout the place, steal some data. I don't remember all the details anymore because I've tried to block this game out. But the players basically decided that, despite the fact that it was described as this heavily fortified base with several squads of stormtroopers and ATSTs and all this other stuff around it, that rather than sneaking in, they were just going to try to blast their way in. They decided going through the front, kicking the front door down and shooting their way through was the best plan of action. And nothing I could say would dissuade them from this. And, well, long story short, I had a whole bunch of dead characters.
TPK?
TPK. But it wasn't even a good TPK, because it was just I don't know what was up that night, but it just felt like the players were deliberately committing suicide. So it wasn't even this entertaining TPK. It was just the players were all just all right, this is what we're going to do. And I'm are you sure you want to do that? It sounds like a terrible plan. You don't have any way to get through the front door easily. And no, we'll bring some explosives and we'll blow the front door open. It'll be fine. I'm all right. Are you sure? And they basically threw the front door, and nobody tried to get cover, nobody tried sneaky, nobody tried doing anything smart. They were just we're going to run through this hallway, and we're just shooting everything that moves. And it's and they just got gunned down.
You don't have the writers to protect you.
And I'm and I even kept giving them outs. I'm all right, you can see up ahead, there's a squad of 30 stormtroopers. And they're that's all right, we've got them. We've got grenades, and I've got a thermal detonator, and we've got blasters. And I'm yeah. Yeah, it ended so poorly. And it was just one of the worst experiences I've ever had as a game master, because it's just there was just nothing I could do to make the game better. Nobody seemed to end up having any fun. And it was and they just were determined to run headlong into this just meat grinder and die. And I never really figured out what was up with that night. It was just one of those things. Because everybody I played with was, friends of mine. And we played other games together, and they weren't bad players. That night was apparently just an off night for everyone or something. I don't know. But needless to say, that was a very short-lived Star Wars campaign.
Every so often, we always seem to end up in have a night or a situation where you just say, forget it. I'm just going to roll dice and let them fall where they may. I don't care.
Yeah. It's a shame when you get everybody at the table kind of like that, except for the game master who's just sitting there frustrated. Opti, what you got for us?
Shadowrun, and it is it was frustrating more because of the venue than the players. Although through no fault of their own, the players made it a little bit lame too. So I don't think I should say the con.
It's
I'm not going to say the
Super
con.
Duper GamerCon 2045. Yeah.
A con that is particular to Texas. You might even say it was a Texas con or a. So I was invited. I was invited to do this con because the podcast was going pretty well, and they had heard of it, and they wanted to do more Shadowrun. So they said, "Hey, would you come? And we'd really, really like to have you on a panel to discuss, podcasts and that kind of thing in the gaming industry. And I was like, my ego was like, well, hell yeah, I'll do that. And so I said, yeah, sure. And they said, oh, and you're a CDT agent. Would you also, run some games? And I said, yeah, sure, no problem. And they said, it's going to be well attended, blah, blah, blah. There's lots of Shadowrun players. I said, great. So I showed up at the place and kind of set up. I showed up way earlier than I needed to because, I like to have everything just so, and I like to be well prepared and have an inviting presence for everyone. And so they walk in and they give me the sign-up sheet, and there's nobody on the sign-up sheet for I'm doing these 2 missions, and so I was like, okay, well, nobody signed up, and they're like, yeah, nobody put it up. Nobody put the sign-up sheet up anywhere. And I was like, oh, okay. and so because I had mentioned it to a few people that were in my my then weekly local game shop, like 3 people showed up, and 2 of them were from the Dice Crimes podcast, and one of them was another CDT agent. And so it was myself running for these people who are already kind of friends of mine, and we were running a mission, and we were the only ones that showed up. The mission itself was a CMP mission. I want to say it was one of those ones where you were going after particular corporate headquarters in Seattle. I don't know, it was a CMP mission not too long ago.
Okay.
Hey, go up to this place and steal this thing. So what essentially what they did was something that, for whatever reason, I don't know that it was perfect. They said, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and they were in and out of the thing in like 30 minutes. And like they got all the nice rolls, they got everything went well, and like they were just done. The mission was done, like supposed to be a 4-hour time slot, and we were done in 30 minutes. And then I waited around and for the next mission to show up, and nobody had signed up for that. And so I just basically sat around like waiting and just getting irritated that the con didn't do a better job of promoting anything. So after that, I was supposed to have the panel. And so I walk into the room where the panel's supposed to be, and there's like, a bunch of other people, and they were playing this anime game. And I was like, hey, is this where the panel is supposed to be? And they all looked at me like, what the hell are you doing here, old man? I was like,
Jeez.
All right. Right. And it's supposed to be on the panel with with another podcaster guy. And so I was like, yeah, okay. So like I looked around, I went to find one of the tournament organizers, and I was like, hey, about that panel. And they're like, oh yeah, go find so-and-so. It's supposed to be there and there. And I was like, pawning me off right now? Like you're like not even going to help me like figure this out? Like you're the guy who got me to come here. And so I went and found this other podcaster, and he's like sitting there like playing like old school D&D. And I'm like, hey, are we supposed to do a podcast panel? He's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And I was like, all right then, I'm gonna go now. So I just bailed on the con, and like they keep asking me to come back, and I was like, nope, never again, no thanks. So yeah, that was kind of
professional.
Right? I was like, I'm never gonna do this again. I'm gonna save all my money and go to Origins Gen Con where they got their crap together.
Well, you say that now, but as somebody who has been in the trenches at Origins and Gen Con for many, many, many years, let me tell you, there are some years they don't got their shit together.
So the rest of the con though, like I walked around, like like they have like the big, at every con they have like an open area where you can kind of look around, and there was like 3 booths of people like actually selling stuff, and the rest of the floor of the con was basically just like ancient grognards, literally playing first edition Shadowrun, first edition D&D, like old games that nobody remembers. And remember getting into an argument with this guy. Like I'm not even trying to argue, like, but he's just like, oh yeah, hey, what about Shadowrun? You like Shadowrun? I was like, actually, yeah, blah 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 podcast. And he's like, yeah, 5th edition sucks.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, cool. Like, I mean, I don't have any necessarily skin in that fight, but whatever. And he's like, yeah, every edition but first sucks. And like he like cornered me and like tried to like tell me all the reasons why, like, and I was like, I'm just not interested in this. I just don't, like, I don't care enough about any of this to argue with you. and I'm cornered with you, and you're so old, and you're so angry, and you're so like aggressive towards me that like I just want to leave, and I just want to go have a Big Mac because you're really, really harshing my mellow right now. So yeah, never going back there.
Yeah.
It's like I would have probably just looked at the guy and just gotten all dude on and be like, well, that's just like your opinion, man. Just to see what kind of reaction I'd get out of it without I'm a bit of an antagonizer that way.
Oh, you get some. Unfortunately, at the conventions, you occasionally get those guys that are just very, very, very opinionated, and they feel this overwhelming need that you need to know their opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually created a band, a Shadowrun band, called the Angry Badgers, where I funnel all of my irritation at the grognards.
Nice.
All right. Opti, let's come back to you. Ask us a question.
Okay, this will be in the same vein of the first one, but slightly different. What is your guilty 90s band? Like, what band or artist from the 90s do you love but kind of slightly feel guilty about it?
Ooh.
Oh, I don't remember the 90s too much. No, I'm just kidding.
You guys have some time to think about it. The Spice Girls. I absolutely love the Spice Girls. So much so that I had
Spice Girl.
My favorite Spice Girl was Ginger.
Oh,
good man.
I knew there's a reason I liked you, Opti.
Good man. That was the correct answer.
Yeah.
So much so that I had a cover band when I was in college, and we used to play. Side note: we used to play at a Chinese food restaurant. And we got paid in Chinese food and boba, but that's neither here nor there. Chinese food place, and like the biggest song that we sang that everybody liked was we sang "Two Become One" by the Spice Girls, and but actually people ended up at my wedding. We had that song playing, and people whipped out their lighters, and since everybody there like was familiar with the band, like and knew that we sang that song, people like gathered around in a big circle and were singing "Two Become One" with us at the wedding. It was this transcendent experience. But the Spice Girls are they are what they are. But I absolutely love them.
I had a friend, well, two friends, but I had a friend that I used to game with, and his girlfriend who would sort of game with us. She tagged along all the time, but then she would sit there and usually do like crossword puzzles during the game rather than actually playing. But we had dragged, I don't even remember what movie it was now, we had dragged her to see some movie she didn't want to see. Because we'd gone as a group, and basically the only way he was allowed to go is if she came with him. But she didn't want to see the movie, so she made us promise that we would go see a movie she wanted to see at some point.
I know where this is going.
And I ended up going and seeing Spice World opening weekend.
Oh!
Because of that. I have to admit, I didn't hate the Spice Girls. I didn't love the Spice Girls, but I did not hate them. Rob.
If you want to be Rob's lover.
Oh, speaking of lover, my particular 90s, this was kind of late 90s, but it still applies. Speaking of lover would be Mr. Bombastic himself, Shaggy. Just because I don't know what it was, but my friends and I, we'd get together. One of the things when we would get together, especially when we're gaming, like gamers are wont to do, is someone says something like a movie quote or a song lyric, and it just starts feeding off each other.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember that there was one guy in my group that he just could do a spot-on impression of Shaggy. And he would and every so often, just out of nowhere, you'd hear, Mr. Lover Lover. And we're just like, shut the fuck up. And I don't know. And after a while, it just gets stuck in your head, and then you're driving down the road, and all of a sudden you're really not paying attention to the radio, and you start hearing Mr. Bombastic, it is fantastic, and you realize you're singing along with it, and you sort of stop and go, oh no, they It got me. Curse you, brain worm. But no, But yeah, and then Shaggy did another song with the Maxi Priest called "That Girl," and I don't know, that one was actually not too bad. It's got a pretty decent beat to it, and I kind of sort of said I like that in public, but not too often.
All right, I suppose I should answer then. Mm-hmm. This is a tough one for me because I, for the longest time, really didn't like 90s music. Like anything 90s. Part of it was being obstinate, and part of it was I still don't like grunge. When music, that shift that music had in the early 90s there from, your 90s pop and rock to the grunge movement really was jarring for me because I really like the older style music, like that 80s music more. And so for the longest time, I didn't like anything 90s. I didn't listen to new music, whatever. But there was always a few bands that kind of managed to sneak through and that I always enjoyed. And I don't know if I consider any of them. What was the question? Was guilty pleasure bands? Was that the question?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Bands that you would kind of feel guilty to admit that you like.
I'm not. See, that's the problem. Is I'm not sure if I have any that I really would feel guilty about. But then again, I also don't care that much what other people think. So,
Take that, society.
So I guess there's that as well. If I had one though, Boyz II Men was a big one. I don't know why, but I always really liked Boyz II Men. Cooley High Harmony. Mm-hmm. Hard to Say Goodbye was our was really big. Was really big the year I graduated high school, and I actually enjoyed high school. Unlike a lot of I know a lot of the gamer geeks are like basically high school is something they try their hardest to forget. But I actually enjoyed high school. It wasn't the greatest experience, but
But eventually, you come to the end of the road.
Yes. So that was always a good one. And then there was.
I remember Boyz II Men was like the last song at every dance.
Yes. Yeah.
Best chance to kind of slow dance,
You're
right?
You're
like
a little.
Sour Never Man.
What year did you graduate, Opti, if I can ask?
95.
Okay, yes. I thought you're a few years younger than me, because 92, I think, was right when they came out and made it big, and that was my graduating year. So I don't really think they got too much play at any of our dances, other than maybe, like, our final prom. But, yeah, them, and then there was... I don't know what you would call the style, but it was things like Bare Naked Ladies, Hootie and the Blowfish, that like more 90 poppy stuff.
B&L's one of my favorite bands.
Yeah, I was always a fan of those. But you can't say Bare Naked Ladies. You go, well, that was a guilty pleasure because everybody loved Bare Naked Ladies,
right?
And if they didn't love Bare Naked Ladies, they were objectively wrong, and
because that's what our corporate masters told us we liked. We will play them into the ground, and you will like them because we are playing it.
Throw in Alanis Morissette in there for me.
Okay, I wouldn't call that a guilty pleasure either.
I didn't.
Oh, I had such a crush on her. Oh my gosh.
Kind of like you. I hated 90s music when it was happening. And so like everything I liked in retrospect. And so while everybody else had moved on from Alanis Morissette, like I really started to enjoy her.
Yeah, I've never been a big Alanis Morissette fan myself, but yeah, there was a lot of that stuff that I've come to appreciate as it's aged. Especially because now I kind of look back and go, wow, I guess that wasn't so bad when I listen to newer music.
Yeah,
because I'm just an old cranky guy. I'm shaking my cane and telling the kids to get off my lawn.
Arguing with people at
no,
conventions.
I don't do that.
He argues SR2 was better. No,
SR3 was the best. No, I don't. I don't do that.
SR6. XR6 is going to be the best.
I, however, will argue. There is no SR6.
It will be the best one.
SR5 for life.
Opti, we were told not to talk about that.
No, although I will argue that West End Games D6 was the best Star Wars game.
Yes.
Although
Hands down.
Fantasy Flight does do a good job of coming second, but the D20 one doesn't exist in my world.
D20 is dead to me for Star Wars.
I think it's actually the only one I played.
I'm sorry.
D20?
The D20 one, but it wasn't a very memorable experience. I think I played like one session.
I have to admit,
And,
I had a very memorable game that I played back when I was living down in Cincinnati with my buddies Aaron and Toon, Robert, Psycho Toon. We had a great game there, but it was more because of the players and the GM, and much less because of the system.
Yeah, sometimes if you get the right people, I mean...
Oh, yeah, if you got the right people, any game can be fun.
Yeah, because I've always felt rules are important to any role-playing game, but at the end of the day, all the rules are a mechanic that help further the story.
Well, agreed.
Yeah, if you've got good people, a good GM, and you have fun with it, who cares, what exactly the rule system is. Now I'm going to be getting all the hate mail. All right, better set my spam filters on high.
Yeah, so you can send those mail to Rob Thomas at Matchbox20.com. So, Rob Thomas is going to be getting some weird hate mail. All right, all right. That was Opti. Rob, you got a question?
Okay, got a question. So let's get away from...
Oh, I should have said Matchbox 20 for my guilty pleasure.
That would have been too obvious. Oh, what question? Okay. How about this? Since we're kind of on a bit... We seem to have gotten a nostalgia kick. Question of what was your guilty pleasure music band? What would be either your 90s or your 80s? Let's open this wide open. What would be your guilty pleasure TV show?
So I got to think about this one for a bit.
Just in general, or like...
Yeah, just in general. 80s TV show. What, 80s, 90s TV show. What was your guilty pleasure TV show?
There are so many of those. But I think I'm going to go obscure.
Go for it.
I believe it was called Wizards and Warriors. It lasted for all of about 6 episodes.
Had Jeff Conaway.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that. That was, at the beginning of that was so cheesy.
Oh, it was terribly cheesy. Yeah, Jeff Conaway was the main character. It was awful. I mean, it was such a cheesy, terrible show. But it was
values.
It was I loved it though when I was a kid. I was all of like 8 or 9 when that was out, and because that was early 80s. That one, and there was another show that was along the same lines. It was just cheesy and didn't last, but it was called The Highwayman.
Yes.
And
isn't that the one with Sam Jones, the guy who played in the Flash Gordon movie in the 80s, in the early 80s?
I don't remember who the main character was, but I remember his sidekick was Jocko, the dude that used to do the oi for the Energizer commercials.
Yes. What's the longest battery you can buy? What a surpriser! The new Energizer! Man, I had a lot for this stuff tonight. Man, I don't know if this is awesome or just...
Yeah, Sam Jones. Yeah, it was Sam Jones. And,
you IMDb'd it, didn't you?
I did. Oh, Claudia Christian was in the pilot for that. Nice.
Yeah. Wait a minute, we went from Jeff Conaway, and now we're bringing in... This is like this is turning into like 6 Degrees of Babylon 5 all of a sudden.
Yep. And yeah, basically it was kind of a almost like a Knight Rider-esque type show, because they had like this big souped-up super...
Semi-truck.
It was like a semi-truck / RV thing that they would drive around in. This futuristic thing, and they would drive it around, and fight crime.
Yeah, fight. And I remember, wasn't that also the one where he would pull the steering wheel off, put a control stick in there, and then like a helicopter would come out of it and start flying around.
And I think the front part of it could detach as like a car as well, like because it wasn't really a truck pulling a trailer; it was all one big piece. But yeah, there was a couple of things that could pop off as. It would have been a fantastic toy line.
It would have.
In fact, G.I. Joe did something along those lines. I have I think it was called a Rhino. It was a toy that was released in the early 2000s. But it's this big... It's my... It's what I'm going to ever... If I ever get around to playing around with my G.I. Joe / Shadowrun toy line, it's what I'm going to use for the Ares City Master. But it's this big multi-wheeled vehicle, combat vehicle, but there's a little chopper that pops out of the top of it.
Oh, cool.
Opti.
So I don't know what qualifies as a guilty pleasure when we're talking about 80s TV shows because they were all a mix of amazing and really bad.
Yeah.
So
I kind of went with obscure.
Kind of like
mine.
the 80s themselves.
I went with I kind of went with short-lived and obscure cult type status. That was my criteria.
I'm going to end up with my last one, but I just want to give little brief mentions to the ones that I absolutely watched all the time. But Mork and Mindy, Greatest American Hero.
Oh yeah.
Perfect Strangers, Mr. Belvedere, Golden Girls, MASH, Magnum PI. Those are all ones that. But Golden Girls would kind of make it up there as getting there. But one of my favorites was The Fall Guy.
Oh yeah.
And
Bolt Seaver.
Yes, exactly. And basically a Hollywood stuntman who's like a bounty hunter on the side. And what really sticks with anybody who's seen it is the theme song. It's just got the most amazing.
Well, not the kind to kiss and tell, but I've been seeing with Farrah. I've never been. Yeah.
So it's got the most amazing. You know what, you bull? You should drop the Fall Guy theme song at the end of the episode.
And Lee Majors was the one who actually sung that theme song.
Yep.
So
right.
That's made it even cooler.
Oh no, Fall Guy was great. When I was a kid, I had a handful of Matchbox cars. I never had a lot of Matchbox cars, but I had a handful of them. One of the Matchbox cars I had was a set that I had gotten that was the Dukes of Hazzard. So I had the General Lee and like Boss Hogg's little car and Uncle Jesse's truck and whatever. But I also had a Matchbox car of the Fall Guys truck. That gold truck with the eagle on the hood. And so when I was a kid, I would basically cross over Dukes of Hazzard and the Fall Guy, and they would like do stunts and race each other and stuff in their cars.
Now that would have been a show. That would have been pretty cool.
Yeah, but I like this show so much that when I was writing adventures for Shadowrun Anarchy, I have one in there based on the Fall Guy.
Oh, nice!
In which the Fall Guy, basically, I wrote in there that the guys who actually plug their brains in and create the content for SimSense, they're called Fall Guys because they're like the kind of modern day stuntmen.
Nice.
They are working for this Hollywood Fall Guy. I think I called them like Colt Majors or Lee Sievers or something like that.
Nice.
Excellent.
But yeah, they work for Fall Guy, Inc. or something like that. Anyway, it was that was one of my favorites. I just love it. And the theme song sticks with me today.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm the unknown stuntman that made Eastwood look
so fine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was great. The 80s had such great theme songs.
It did. I mean, like I said earlier, I still every so often will just start listening to 80s themes, on my playlist just because.
You know what was magical about the 80s? And there's a lot to make fun of about the 80s.
Oh God,
the 80s sucked in a lot of ways, but what I really like about the 80s is it was like this moment in time when everybody went, you know what? Screw it.
Yeah.
Let's try it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you got really wacky, stupid stuff. Like nobody had kind of like corporate America had not reached a point where they were so strict with what they like. By the '90s, like everything kind of sounded the same, and you got your three genres, and like everything was the same. But like back in the '80s, I mean, like you could have weird stuff like Max Headroom, and you could have weird stuff like The Fall Guy, weird stuff like The Golden Girls.
I got
and
one
it was
for
all
you.
like so radically different. You could have this
the
most racist redneck show called Dukes of Hazzard, and make it about like moonshining hillbillies with Confederate flags on their car, and still somehow that was like family television.
Yeah.
Right. The mechanic's name was Cooter. Yeah, it's awesome.
The weirdest.
80s were a particular thing.
You want to sum up the 80s and weird concepts? Cop rock.
Right.
Do you remember Cop Rock?
I'm going to pretend you didn't say that, Bull.
What were you a fan? Or do you just try to pretend it never existed?
Yeah, I'm still trying. God, now I'm going to have to take more meds now. Damn it. Just when I thought I'd forgotten it. Great.
How many people actually watch Cop Rock?
I think I watched all of like 5 minutes of it once. Just to see what it was.
Was that 90s?
No, Cop Rock was late 80s. It was like late 80s. It was like 88, 89 or something along those lines.
I can tell you.
Yeah.
I have Wikipedia open.
I just want to say curse you, Stephen Bochco.
It was 1990. So I guess technically not necessarily technically 80s.
Yeah, I feel like 90 and 91 were still like the 80s buzz was like going away.
Well, yeah, but it was Stephen Bochco who had done Hill Street Blues, L.A. Law, Doogie Howser, NYPD Blue. He had done all these amazing shows, and it was like apparently just one night he snorted coke, and everybody went, "You know what? You're allowed to do whatever you want." And he goes, "Singing cops."
Yes, because we all know that before officers of the law attempt to take their suspects into custody, they just always feel the urge to break out into song.
Well, it's how we do Shadowrun, isn't it? Oh wait, no, that's just Jason. That's just Jason.
That needs to be an April Fool's mission.
Shadowrun the musical. A free spirit with a power. A free spirit with a free.
Shadowrun the musical.
Okay, hold on. I'm writing down notes as we speak.
So we've got next year's April Fool's mission.
You heard it here first, folks.
Let's face it, this is how all the April Fool's missions generally come about, is us going, you know what would be really fucking stupid? Yeah, let's do it!
Wait, just the April Fool missions? That's usually how I approach most of my
Well, that's true.
writing.
But the really stupid stuff becomes April Fool's missions.
Yeah. And you had mentioned earlier, Opti, about putting a nod into Fall Guy into Shadowrun Anarchy. I don't know how many people picked up on it because it is a real obscure reference, but I actually wrote in a little nod to Kolchak the Night Stalker in some of the stuff I wrote in Hard Targets.
Oh,
you really have to pay attention. But if you know anything about this show, the specifically the stars and the people who make it, you might pick up on it. I'm not going to say anything else right now because I'm hoping people are going to run out and try to find it, maybe buy more books. Yay, marketing!
All right. Does anybody else still have to answer the question, or do we all get everybody?
I don't know. Does it really matter? This is kind of like turned into, whose interview is it anyway?
Well, that's pretty much the concept.
Yeah. Where the questions don't matter and the answers matter even less.
All right. All right. I'll ask a question then. We'll throw a softball at you guys. We'll make it easy, short and sweet. What are your favorite French fries? Like, from where? Like McDonald's fries, Burger King fries, whatever. What are your absolute favorite French fries? Assuming you like French fries. If you don't like French fries, you're dead to me.
I'm surprised you can say that after all the things that Whack has never even tasted. But
well, see, with Whack, it's not that he doesn't like French fries; it's just that he's never had them.
Wait a minute.
Was that one of the things?
No, I don't know. I don't know.
Or you just made that up?
I just made that up. At this point, I just sort of assume that it's a new experience for Whack.
I honestly want to have a TV show where it's basically just Whack trying new food for the first time.
We were joking about that on the episode. We're gonna strap a little camera to the top of Whack's head, make it like a first person thing, and it's just day in the life of Whack experiencing new things.
Hey, could we do a Kickstarter or a Patreon where like Whack straps on his GoPro for like 3 or 4 hours a day, and we just tell him what to do, like via
like those Twitch plays. Okay. We'll make it a Twitch thing.
Get here. Yeah, like okay. Look, everybody's voting now. Okay, Whack is going to McDonald's.
Yay!
And he's going to try it only exists in this one area. Yeah, so like those kind of things would be amazing.
Schwan sauce.
Whack, if you're listening to this, we do love you. We say this all with the utmost mockery, of course, but also sincerity and in love.
I mean, if you think that I would start a Patreon and go through all this work for somebody that I don't like, you're absolutely wrong.
So, all right, favorite French fries, where and why? Go. Opti.
Okay, so probably with the caveat that you have to say, hey, leave them in a little longer. Because normally In-N-Out French fries are a little bit soggy, and they're good, but if you let them, like, leave them in the fryer a little bit longer, like, they get super crispy, and I think they have the best taste and the best texture and the best crunch.
See, unfortunately, I don't have In-N-Out up here.
That wasn't a caveat in the question.
Oh. I was just saying.
I don't know what French fries you have up there, so I don't know what to say.
No, it's all good. Unfortunately, we do not have In-N-Out Burger up here. I'm a little sad because I've heard good things about it. But, Rob.
I don't know how far this particular chain stretches, but in my area we have this sandwich shop. There's like 3 stores in the nearby city called Penn Station. Okay,
we have those out here.
Yes. Oh, they're probably some of my favorite French fries of all, because they're simplistic. They just basically take a potato, chop it up, and toss it into the fryer and serve. Skin and all.
Pretty amazing. Isn't that what all people do?
Yeah, but
isn't that what French fries are?
Yeah, but unfortunately, see, okay, here's the thing. Look at McDonald's, look at Wendy's, look at Burger King. They're always trying to outdo each other. They're always trying to, come up with the, quote, best fry. So they come up with these funky cuts, or they try to figure out what's the absolute perfect length, diameter, width, texture, stuff like that. It's like they overthink French fries. They try to market French fries, something that should be so ridiculously simple. They have to make it complicated. And then this much salt, no salt. What do? What kind of sauces do we add? No, ketchup. I don't care. And if anybody's out there listening is Canadian, I'm sorry, it's ketchup. None of this mayo BS. Sorry. If I create an international incident, oh well, eh?
Wow. All right.
Sorry, man. I'm passionate about my fries. But no, seriously,
apparently.
I love them because they just chop. They basically one slice, toss it in there. Sometimes you get some that are crispy. Sometimes you get some that stick together that make a nice big huge thing of potato. Just enough done potato. Some of them are slightly soggy. Throw a little bit of ketchup, maybe every so often some malt vinegar, and absolutely delicious. I'll eat that all day.
Yeah. You joke that it's pretty simple, that it's just cut up fries and you throw them in the fryer, and how different could they be? But it really is interesting how a different size cut or the oil they use or whatever can make a huge difference.
Yeah. I understand what you mean. I mean, I joke and everything like that, but I worked in food service for the longest time and everything like that, so I had to deal with some of these insane regulations and rules about how to make French fries. So I know exactly where you're coming from. But that's why I like mom and pop stuff, whenever I possibly can.
Oh yeah, there's a place around the corner from us, Grand Valley Pizza, and they do what they call their fresh cut fries, which are basically just fries that still have the skin on them.
Yep.
When they cut them up, they're just really tasty. But my favorite chain type food fries is honestly McDonald's, as long as they're fresh. Fresh out of the fryer from McDonald's fries. Just something about the combination of the oil, the salt, and whatever they use. They're really, really good. They're not so good when they get cold, but...
Well, can I do an honorable mention?
Sure.
To Red Robin? Do you guys have that out there?
Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Red Robin is delicious.
But they also have like
Endless.
unlimited fries, right?
Yes.
And they've got that fry seasoning on the table that you can kind of like put on or not have on. So I feel like Red Robins are a real crowd pleaser whenever we go.
Yeah, I do enjoy a good Red Robin. Another one that I would say for me for an honorable mention, more for volume than anything else, is Five Guys.
Five
Endless
Guys is
fries.
good also,
Ooh.
yes.
Five Guys fries are good, and I love the fact that you order fries and they just they fill up the cup and then they just dump an assload in the bag on top of the cup.
And with Five Guys, you've already kind of like had a little bit of peanuts, along the way, and peanuts.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you sit there and you have peanuts, and then they're like, "Here, have some more saltiness."
Yeah. But they get an honorable mention, if for no other reason than the sheer volume that they give you. Because I appreciate anybody who's willing to give me heaps and heaps of food. Because most places are like, we're going to measure it out exactly, and this is all you're allowed to have. And they're like, nope, fuck it. We're just going to throw lots in here.
If we're talking, since I'll get in on the honorable mention too, and this one also has a little bit of nostalgia factor for me as well. I'm very, very partial to Chick-fil-A's waffle fries, because Chick-fil-A was actually the first job I ever had when I was 15 years old. There was a local mall, had a nice Chick-fil-A shop. The manager there, she was really nice. And what was kind of funny is when I applied for the job, I didn't even really want to apply. I was actually just hanging out with my buddy, and he actually convinced me to put in an application, and I was the one that got the job. Whoops. So, but I just remember working there, and they had I don't know if they still do this, but they had a rule. Whatever's left in the bin can only stay in the bin for 2 minutes, and then they chuck them. So what you do is when you went on your break, you timed it out, and then all that stuff that they were going to throw out, yeah, you see where I'm going with this. We just take all that stuff, so we'd have just, we're allowed one sandwich, and technically one small fry, but they're going to throw them all away anyway, so whoop. So you're literally walking around with a huge plate of waffle fries.
Nice. All right. Who wants to take the next one? We'll get one more round of questions, and then we'll wrap this up.
That'll be Gabe.
Rob, why don't you ask one?
Why don't I ask one? Okay. Since we're talking about, we've mentioned cons before. We've mentioned drinking before. Two-parter. One, what is the absolute best drink, whether it be mixed, beer, scotch, whatever? What was the best drink that you've ever had at a convention? And part B, what is the one drink which damaged you the most?
What if the answer to both is the same?
Well, then you're just saving time, man. That's called efficiency, Bull.
Opti?
Well, we've already told part of this story.
Yep.
It was probably scotches that I had at Origins last year, and I want to say, Bull, you could probably tell me what it was, but there was one that was in particular scotch, and I remember thinking, this is the last time I'm going to be able to drink a scotch this nice, and so I think I had 3 or 4 glasses of it, and that was probably what did me in. It might have been
Lightweight.
Maybe Johnny Walker Blue, or I don't know. Was there a Yamazaki?
I wasn't
Wait.
at Origins last year.
Oh, well then you're not going to be much help at all.
Yeah, that was unfortunately I missed Origins. Remember, it was the one year year in the last 20 I've had to skip. I was at Gen Con, but
So yeah, it might have been. I'm having such a hard time. It might have been a. I don't even know how to say the last part of that, but Ugadale or something like that. But anyway, there was something that was pretty amazing, and I remember drinking a lot of it. So that's
yeah. The Scotch Squad guys. There's a few of them that pride themselves on bringing really nice and really expensive scotches every year. So it gets interesting. And about the second part. What was the second part of the question, Rob?
What's the one that
damaged you the most?
Yeah, what damaged you the most? What did you?
Yeah.
So it's the same.
That was the year that I screwed myself up. Yeah, it was.
Okay. I'm actually a terrible one to ask about alcohol. For two reasons. One, I have this enormous resistance to alcohol in that I have to drink really, really potent stuff in large volumes or it doesn't affect me. I will literally get full to the point where I can no longer drink anything because I cannot intake more liquid before I will get drunk usually. Unless there's certain... I have to meet certain requirements, basically. Like, if I'm drinking on an empty stomach, it's a little easier for me to get buzzed. Stuff like that. But generally speaking, if I'm drinking just, like, normal, like, regular, like, 90 proof type stuff, it's not going to do much to me. And beer, don't even get me started on beer. Beer might as well be Mountain Dew for all it's going to do to me. So at conventions, I have a tendency... I also don't particularly like alcohol, which is weird. I can't discern flavors all that well. I don't have a taste for it. So, to me, it just all tastes like alcohol. I mean, there are some differences. I can't remember the name of it, but there's this one stuff that they bring up to the conventions pretty regularly that I actually really like. But it's because it has a very, very distinctive flavor to it. And it's something that's got... I think you were at Gen Con you had some of this, Opti. It has a really, really strong smoke flavor to it.
Like some of the scotch you're talking about?
Yeah, it's a scotch. All I know is, like, I drink it and I feel like I just... The running joke is I drink it and I feel like I just drank a barbecue.
Dirt.
Like the actual barbecue. Not barbecue food, but the actual...
Right.
Because it's just, you drink it and you feel like you breathe and you smell like charcoal.
That's going to be like that heavy peat in the in the scotch.
And I find that fascinating. So I really enjoy that stuff. But generally speaking, I stick to Everclear and Gatorade. What I call
Haterade?
Haterade. Mainly because it's got a high enough proof to it that it will actually affect me and will get me solidly buzzed if I drink enough of it. And by mixing it with the Gatorade, it A, doesn't have a real strong flavor, so it doesn't bother me there. And B, the Gatorade keeps me hydrated because Everclear will do bad things to you if you're not careful. Rob?
I would say my absolute favorite drink was a highly, highly alcoholic beer I had at Gen Con last year. I mean, I'm okay with Scotch. I don't mind Scotch, but it's not my poison of choice. I'm a beer drinker. I love craft beers. You know, give me a beer, I'll try it, no matter what kind it is. But there was this high alcoholic content beer. I think it's something to do with hell. There's a demon on the bottle, and with good reason.
I tried a little bit of that. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, one of the guys brought up a few bottles of that.
Yeah, but it was dangerous. I had about half of it, and I'm like, I need to stop. I need to eventually somehow make it back to my hotel room. And there was no way I was going to do it just on one bottle. And I'm not a small guy, and I like to think I have a decent alcohol tolerance, you know, or at least able to kind of fake it. But I knew if I would have finished that, it would have been trouble. It would have been much trouble.
Nice.
But you know, Ghost help me. I want more. I want to try more. But
Gen Con last year, actually, this is another one for me for a really good one, was Gen Con last year. I only got a little bit of it, but he's supposed to be making some more for this year. Grant Wilson, our Ghost Hunter friend himself, from the TV show Ghost Hunters, he brought up last year bottles of this homemade apple pie moonshine that he made.
Oh, that's dangerous too.
You could, yeah. It was delicious. It tasted like cinnamon apple, like the cinnamon apple pie filling.
Yes,
and did not have an alcohol taste to it at all.
No, yes. There's in my area we have a lot. It can be very rural. So there's apple pie and just moonshine is kind of a big deal out here. So yeah, there's I've had some pretty potent stuff of that too.
It was really good. And it's one of those ones that I could see myself just drinking by the just mugs of it. And yeah.
But interesting. The one time that alcohol really, really, really got me at a convention was not at Gen Con or Origins, which are usually the big ones I go to. This was actually a convention. It was called Dover Peace Conference. This was like, I want to say, late 90s, early 2000s, because it was back in my EMS days. And I went with a buddy of mine, my former EMS partner named Dale, and it was a great time. For those of you who don't know, Dover Peace Conference was just basically an excuse for a bunch of Star Trek geeks to get together and party. And party did we. You want to talk about any type of Star Trek themed concoction you can come up with, it was there. Blood wine, Romulan ale, whatever. It was there for the consumption, and it hurt. But the one thing that got me was something called a full phaser barrage. Now, it's not a drink in of itself. Now, here's how it works. You take 12 shots of your whatever poison you want. I think I chose tequila at the time because I didn't know any better. And what they do is, depending on your affiliation, red for Federation, green for Romulans. I don't remember what the Klingons were, but you put the coloring in it, and the idea is to down as many of the 12 shots as you can in 30 seconds.
Oh, that's not good.
This is... No, it's not. It's not. There were some self-destructive things going on there, but it was a good time. Or at least I think it was, because I was silly enough to take the challenge after I'd already pounded back about 6 beers and a couple shots. But so yeah, the liquid courage was flowing. So I went up to the bar, challenged my opponent, and off I went. I remember that I was told later that I had managed to get 8 out of the 12 shots. And I seem to remember waking up in my bed in my hotel. Thankfully, I was still clothed. Parties were a little raucous. On the bed. My legs were on the bed. My top half was off the bed. Off the back of the bed. And someone was at least nice enough to put a pillow underneath my jaw. So here I am hanging over the back of the bed, my legs up on the top of the bed, my front end, over the back with my arms splayed off with my head sideways on this pillow. So I don't know what happened that night, and I think it's probably for the best that I don't know what happened that night. Still, all in all, it was a good time. Remember it, you must have had a good time.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is why it's a bad idea to drink.
Yes. Learn from our mistakes, people.
Moderation in all things. See, Opti's over there like, yeah, I just got sick and couldn't eat anything for a while. And the rest of us were like...
No, I was trying to think of whether or not I should tell the next story.
It's like, do I really want this getting out?
Now he's like, do I want to do it? Now I seem like a wuss if I don't tell this story.
One of my first times going out of the country was probably 6 years ago. My friend was getting married in Rome, and so we took a trip to Rome and spent 4 or 5 days there. And there was a bunch of people that went, people that we kind of knew in casual life, not necessarily friends of mine, but people that we kind of knew and hung out in the same circles. And so this one night, and my wife hardly ever gets drunk at all, and I don't either, for what it's worth, except during particular circumstances. But around Rome, we were seeing all the kind of things that we could see by walking at night, and we were kind of, I don't know if mom and pop is the right way to say that, but it was this, I guess. Anyway, so there's this nice restaurant, and like in Rome, like they just put these huge carafes of wine in front of you, and like what we didn't know is that they kept refilling them, right? And so like I'm looking over, and my wife's not having any wine, or at least I thought she wasn't, but it turns out she was, because they just kept refilling the carafe, and so we're just drinking, and we have no idea like exactly how much we've drunk. And we walk out of the restaurant, and we are both just absolutely toasted on some of the best wine that we've ever had. And we kind of make our way back to the hotel, and there at the hotel is a bunch of the other people that were at the party, these acquaintances of mine. They are all getting super, super smashed. I mean, so much so that the entire pool side is like covered with like plastic cups, and this is probably about, I'd say about 15 people, and they have like got cups and empty beer. Like, there's so much empty things of alcohol that like there's nowhere to put them anymore, right? Like there's not one like non-covered flat material anywhere poolside. And so we get back there, and we just go like, all right, I guess. So my wife ends up kind of passing out like on the chair. It's like, okay, well we'll have to leave soon. And I eventually kind of get her back up there, and I go back down, and then eventually, like, I'm like, okay, I gotta stop. I gotta not drink anymore, because I'm gonna be gone. Way over there, people are like kind of going that direction, like these acquaintances of mine, people that I will see again in the future and have to interact with, and they're like losing their tops like on the way up to, and so like I'm into the elevator. He kind of goes like, puts her hand in there and like gets in the elevator with me, and I'm like, oh goodness, she is so drunk. And she's like, well, you're kind of religious, right? And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. And she's like, okay, good, I've been meaning to get this off my chest. And she just unloads and starts confessing like all of this crazy stuff. And I go like, are you okay? Like, she's like, oh yeah, I'm fine, but like, thank you so much for like listening. Like, I hope I get forgiven for all this. And I'm like, I'm not the guy who's gonna tell you yes or no to that, but like, like I hope I can get you safe to your room. And so she like gets safe to her room, and like I walk in, and for some reason not asleep, and I say, I can't believe, like, I can't tell you what they said, but like somebody just confessed a whole bunch of stuff to me. And then everybody passed out and woke up the next morning and was throwing up everywhere. And apparently a couple of like dozen people who didn't belong together had ended up together, and that was for that week.
Well, you were in Rome, so if you had to go to confession, I guess go right to the top.
Right. The saying "when in Rome" was never more apropos than it was then.
Bless me, Father, for I'm about to sin.
Yeah, I should note that I don't actually drink outside of conventions generally. I probably should drink more often, but
said no one ever.
Yeah. Well, you never know. I think
Here, you know what you need to do? You need to drink more. That'll surely make your life better.
So many people.
Although I guess you probably could have said that to me in my 20s. Like I probably could have stood to drink more. I didn't do a whole lot of drinking.
I didn't do like any when I was younger. I didn't start drinking until until maybe 10 or 15 years ago.
The same partner I talked about when I went to Dover. If I blame him for introducing me to alcohol, because up until I started going to some of those conventions, actually I can blame conventions too. I didn't start drinking until I went to these conventions. Damn you all! I've been corrupted.
It's a good place to drink.
Yeah, it is.
Or a terrible place to drink, depending.
Yes, either answer is correct.
All right. That was Rob's question, right?
Yep.
Opti, do you got one for us?
Let's see here. If you had to choose another country besides America, where would you like to have citizenship? Take it in a completely non-gaming direction.
Yes. I would feel like Godzilla, but I would love Japan. I'm such a big dude that I know, and not that I'm particularly tall, but just because I'm very wide, very large,
Robust.
very robust. I'm orc-sized. I know that I would have a hard time fitting anywhere over there because they tend to build compact, just as a matter of course. But Japan, I think, I like Japan's like just in general culture and everything like that, and I'm fascinated. I see friends go over there and they'll post pictures and stuff, and I think like Tokyo and some of the countrysides and stuff just are just really gorgeous and interesting looking, and it'd be kind of really neat to be there and check it out and stuff.
Cherry blossoms are amazing.
Plus I'm a big anime nerd, so being there where the source of it all is, it'd be kind of nice.
What about you, Rob?
Well,
not Canada after his earlier remarks.
oh yeah, they probably got my name on a do not enter list there, eh? But no, actually, for the longest time, and after watching, it started with certain movies, looking into the country, and started seeing pictures of the landscape. So I would love to live in Scotland.
Oh, Rob, you took mine.
Well, I'll change it real quick. Quick, Bull, back up. Edit this part out. No. I'm just gonna go run with it. But yeah, it's the idea of. It's just for somehow. I'm so interested in finding out what this place is like, to find out just what exactly the place is. I know this is going to sound really weird, but it's very, very hard to describe. It's almost like you see something and you become so insatiably curious about it that you feel that you just have to get there at some point in your life. Going to Scotland is definitely on my bucket list. I want to see the Scottish Highlands. So, the idea of just, in the valleys and the mountains, when that famous Scottish fog rolls in, to me, sitting on a back porch, sipping tea or something like that, and just feeling the ambiance is just something I want to do. Plus, it's pretty close to, England, which, my girlfriend Lindy really loves England. So it's for the both of us to go there. It's kind of like the whole UK in general would be just one of those great places. I'll stay out of the whole Brexit thing for now, but, there's just so much history, so much culture, so much to learn there that it's, like I said, it's on my bucket list.
Well, I have been there, and I can say that it's absolutely the place you want to go, man. Like, everybody's cool there. Everybody that I met, it is every bit as beautiful as you say. And there's like a castle, like you could throw a rock anywhere from Scotland, you're going to hit a damn castle. There's like so many of them.
Hey.
So, I mean, I agree, man. Like everything about Scotland is where I want to be. If you have $1 million, dude, you could like buy an entire castle and retire.
And where else will I be able to practice my accent? Because one of the things, it's just something to do. I watched that stupid movie Braveheart, and I just haven't been able to stop since.
And God knows apparently, you need to practice.
Well, it's been a few years.
Apparently, everybody in Scotland hates that movie.
Oh, even more reason to go, because to be honest with you, I can't stand that movie either.
Like, yeah, they took the history and they completely threw it out the window and then just made a movie about, what an American
William
would be
Wallace.
if they were Scotland. If they were Scottish.
So pretty much like all historical movies ever.
Right? Except for that one with Matt Damon and the Great Wall of China. That's totally true.
Oh, yes.
That's totally legit. I mean, come on.
I mean, aren't they still fighting off giant lizard people or whatever the fuck they were fighting in that movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, but only when white people show up to.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, don't think. I mean, isn't that those big robots are for? Or am I thinking Japan again?
You're thinking Japan again.
Oh well, I mean, come on, it's all the same, isn't it? Okay, well,
all right.
I kid, folks. Okay, it's late. We're all getting goofy. Well,
the opinions of our guests do not reflect the opinions of the Bulldrek Round Table podcast, nor do they reflect the opinions of Catalyst Gaming Labs, for whom he works.
And hopefully they don't mean that they're his opinions either. He's just talking.
Out of his ass.
No.
Way to kill the conversation, Rob.
A lot of
that's what I'm good for.
A lot
on
of
that note,
a lot of folks really like Scotland, so I can imagine. I know a lot of our normal group that would Scotland would probably be their choice if they had to go somewhere.
Yeah, I ended up sneaking some stuff into Shadowrun Anarchy too, based on my trip to Scotland. So
nice.
well,
Shadowrun Anarchy was like when they let me do whatever I wanted, and so I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna put in all the stuff I like.
That's dangerous. Yeah, do whatever you want.
Like, I don't know, they're not gonna take it very seriously, right? So I'll just put in whatever I want. Nobody will know the difference.
Although I will also say though, if I don't get the chance to go to Scotland, okay, I think I might go the other direction. And I've always been kind of curious about Australia. I mean, yes, they say that there's a bazillion and one things to kill you there, but then again, yeah, whatever. But I mean, kind of the exact opposite. I mean, whereas Scotland, seems like this very, I don't know, Opti, would you call it serene kind of place, especially when you're, out in nature? But Australia just seems to have this beautiful, brutal ruggedness to it that I'm just like I just kind of want to see what it's like out there.
I will never go to Australia.
Why not?
Australia has giant things that want to eat you
everywhere. Spiders?
Oh, not just the spiders, although those spiders terrify me. So no, Australia's a no.
No?
Australia wants to kill... The entire continent of Australia wants to kill you.
The 18-hour flight is enough for me to not want to do it again. And plus, it was just kind of like a little America.
Huh.
Well, okay, so food-wise, at least, like, you would order everything that you would order in America, and they would just give you littler portions of it. And then they would put beets on their hamburgers.
Beets?
On there?
Beets.
That's just weird.
So like I got like a beet hamburger with like a Coke that was like way too small, and I kept thinking like, do I have to order an entire other meal before I'm gonna get filled up?
Wow.
Weird. Although this is weird. Like in their food courts, like they had so much more Asian food than like our food courts. Like so. The half the population, it seemed like, was like Asian. You know how like in America a lot of the population is Latino due to our closeness with it was the exact same thing in Australia. Like, it just seemed there's an awful lot of Asian folk there. That was like their kind of like dual race, I guess.
Yeah,
but it was good. Like the food was excellent. Everything was great. Like I said, it just felt like America-ish. Like, not enough of a difference for me to like
America light.
Yeah, I mean, of course, everybody had the accent, and that was fun and fine. Vegemite was like disgusting, and oh my god, why?
Wow,
and
my buzz has officially been
Vegemite
killed.
was so amazing.
You've crushed his dreams.
Yes, I'm. I'm like, oh man, wind out of sails, man.
Having said that, it's amazing. You should go. I loved it. I didn't encounter anything that wanted to kill me, and the people in Australia are amazing. Like, and I guess that's true. Like wherever you go outside of America, like people always seem way.
You got to clarify that. Outside of America.
So, like, I guess in America, like you're going to travel in your lanes, right? And so whenever you come across somebody who isn't in your lane, like they're probably. That's what I've discovered. Like if you don't already like kind of believe like them, agree with them, like them in some way, America does us versus them really well. But in other
especially
places,
lately, yeah.
Yeah, in other places it seems like already known as being different in some way. Like they go out of their way to put on a good face for you, and I really appreciated that.
That's cool.
In every place that I've gone. In America, we'll find, like, we'll kind of ask questions like, oh, so are you this? And then once they find out that you're different, it seems like we do our best to piss on your Cheerios.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
let's
the table up.
let's
Great
not
way to leave off.
let's not end on a negative note. So I'm going to ask one more question just to wrap things up. Let's try to keep it relatively brief, but we're going to bring it back to games and Shadowrun specifically. We'll ask since everybody's a Shadowrun writer here.
All right.
I kind of, and this was kind of one we touched on on the last episode, so I won't answer this one. I'll just ask it either to you. And that is, if you could change one thing about Shadowrun, what would it be? Rob, let's start with you. If Jason came to you and go, look, I'm going to give you blanket powers, change one thing about Shadowrun.
This would be purely fluff, not really rules in any way, shape, or form. One of the things that I liked about Shadowrun that I thought gave it its flavor back when I first started playing in 2nd edition was the fact that mages, shamans summoned spirits, and shamans automatically had a totem. Or mentor spirit, as we call it in the current edition. And I kind of liked that. It gave a distinction to the two magic users. Mages had their own particular view of how magic was, and the shamans, through the totems, were kind of influenced not just by nature, but by whatever particular totem that chose them. And notice I said chose them because totems choose you, not the other way around. At least that's how it should be.
Right.
And I just liked that dynamic. I mean, I can understand why things have changed. I can accept why things have changed. But to me, that's that little nostalgia part, which if I could go back and somehow bring that back in some way, shape, or form, I would do it. Because that was just, for me, made it just a little bit more fun. Not that it's fun now, but like you said, you always seem to go default back to the first whatever you've ever played. Your first game always seems to be the benchmark and sets the stage for whatever that thing is that comes later. And you always seem to go back to that. And for me, I always seem to go back to that whenever I think about Shadowrun. That's the biggest thing I would do. The other smallest thing I would do would be to probably give more to technomancers. And I'm not going to go into a whole lot there, but I just think that they need just a little bit more love. Like them, hate them, whatever. I think that there's still potential to be had there. And if I could, I would find somebody or somebody's to try to see what can be done to kind of bring that archetype up with the rest of the big archetypes out there. And that's it.
Okay. Opti.
Please tell me I didn't steal your thunder again.
No, not at all. Although I do validate your the distinction between mages and shamans. That's something that I've been passionate about for a while. Some of that's gonna, well, I'll just say, hey, Forbidden Arcana should be out soon. Check it out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do miss that as well.
I think that was a backhanded plug there.
But I think I'll copy Rob, and I'll do two things. I'll do one crunch and one fluff. The fluff thing I'd like to see changed is I'd like to see this on the big named characters at the top of the corporations go away. I'd like to see the corporations become more nameless and faceless, not the corps themselves, but the people running them, so that we always kind of feel like the corps are all over us, but we don't know as much about them as we want to or that we should. So like, yeah, Solder Krupp is always going to have Lofir at the top, and Johnny Spinrad's always going to be the head of Spinrad, but like everybody else should, I'd like to see who controls the corps and who pulls the strings be completely shrouded in mystery. You don't know ever if you're taking a job from a corporation. When you're going to run for a subsidiary of a company, I'd like you not to be able to figure out who they work for, because the corps spend billions of dollars trying to clog up the legal system to make sure that you can't get that information on the stockholders or the shareholders of the subsidiaries. I'd like to see just that kind of nameless, faceless, I don't know who controls the world, and I'm just this small little Shadowrunner. I think what we have now is like, oh yeah, I'll just go talk to Damian Knight. There's always that kind of like feel where like you soften the characters too much, and it makes them not guy-ish as they should in a setting like Shadowrun. And so
it's like being too comfortable with some of the movers and shakers idea of what the heck's going on. I agree with you on that end.
People like Lofir. People like Damian Knight. People like Johnny Spinrad. Like, we have like the Quints, like that represent Wuxing on some level. I think that's just, that's just, I don't know. It humanizes them in a way that is unhelpful in universe. So I think I would change that. I think that I would have something happen, where new laws get passed and the heads of the corporations feel like they can just back out and not be in the public eye anymore. On the crunch side, I think that I would want to mechanic of edge and the mechanic of essence, so that edge and essence and magic kind of all intermingle, in that like you have a certain amount of points. I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, if you don't have magic or cyber, then like edge should be what you have. And if you don't have, and if you spend some of your points in cyber, that's okay, because you can still use whatever magic or edge you have left. And if you put it all in magic, then your cyber and your edge doesn't work. So I'd like to see that kind of become a triple thing, so that every player has the same amount of that special, so that characters don't get unbalanced. So a character with 7 edge is just as effective as a character with 7 magic, or a character who has spent all of their points on cyber. If that makes any sense. I think that would go a long way towards balancing things out.
Interesting. Okay, well then, on that note, it has been a little longer than planned, so I think we will go ahead and call it there. Gentlemen, thank you for coming onto the show and talking. Hope you guys had a good time.
Yeah, it was great.
To everybody out there listening, hope you enjoyed the show. This has been R.J. Thomas and O.C. Presley, a.k.a. Opti. Gentlemen, once again, thank you, and have a good night.
Bye.
Peace.